I had a financial controller at the time, and he'd stolen $587,000 from us. And I didn't pick it up because I trusted him until the bank came knocking on my door.
How did he do that?
Later in life, you actually realise what you picked up as you emulate your father.
I relate to that a lot. And I used to think, he's being a bit of an asshole to me because he was like, do the job properly. Like it's not been done well. They say, don't sweat the small stuff. But I'm like, no, sweat the small stuff because it's actually the small stuff that's the difference. Buy, build, and exit. Is that how you approach businesses now?
Not always. It depends on the circumstance. I would prefer to buy a business that I know I can value add to it and turn it into something great rather than starting from scratch, because
time to get fired up. Yeah, I'm getting fired up.
Your thoughts can become plans, plans can become actions, and actions become a reality. We share powerful stories and simple steps to fast track your business and personal growth. Are you ready to make it happen? Let's get fired up. Ralph Anania is a distinguished Australian entrepreneur whose 4 decades of business experience have established him as a leading authority on entrepreneurship and organisational transformation. As a recipient of the prestigious Australian Entrepreneur Award, Ralph's insights are sought after worldwide, whether through his international keynote speeches or his impactful work as an author. With a proven track record of founding and transforming over 30 businesses into high-performing enterprises, one of which exceeded 130 million in annual revenue, Ralph's hands-on real-world experience equips him to provide practical and actionable wisdom to clients across 14 countries and diverse industries. What truly sets Ralph apart is his unwavering resilience in the face of personal and professional challenges. His relentless never give up mindset drives his mission to ignite lasting, meaningful change within small businesses, focusing not just on operational success, but empowering the people who make it happen. In his book, Life Done Right, Ralph draws from his profound life experience to offer an inspiring narrative on hope and perseverance. Through candid storytelling, he provides readers with practical insights for overcoming adversity and achieving personal triumph. We're looking forward to talking to Ralph over the next 3 episodes, so stick around. Let's get into it. Welcome back. I'm excited to have Ralph on the podcast today. Huge career and background and extensive wealth of knowledge and experience. So pretty privileged and lucky to have him here to share some of his wisdom with us today. We're going to have him on for a few episodes, so make sure you stick around for the following ones, and please do chuck on any comments or questions that you might have about the episode or to Ralph as well. But Ralph, thanks for joining us today, mate.
Well, I'm pleased that I'm here and can make a difference to your listeners and your viewers.
I hope so. Matt, I've read the book, I've done my research and things like that. You've had a pretty extensive life overall, which is awesome. And we're going to dig into some of that. But I guess my first question for you is how did you start off on this business and entrepreneurial path? Let's go way back to when you were a young kid and kind of this all started to take shape. Can you talk us through that journey?
Yeah, sure. So I was raised in an Italian family. So my parents came out from Italy, and my dad was in the produce industry. So he had a little fruit shop when I was a kid growing up. So we'd spend before and after school in the shop, and weekends. Those days you would only work on a Saturday half day. There was no Sunday trade anywhere.
Right.
So it was more about growing up in that business environment. My dad was an entrepreneur. In those days it was like having a business to earn a living. But I learned a lot from him. I followed him through many years of watching him do business and how he did business. And it's amazing at the time you don't realize it, but later in life you actually realize what you picked up, as you emulate your father. And some of the greatest lessons have come through him from those times.
What kind of lessons can you pick out from that? Was it just how he conducted himself, how he set up the shop, how he interacted with customers, or all of it? Pretty
much all of it. One of the things that Dad was big on is relationships. He was all about integrity and respect. You had to really earn respect, and integrity can't be purchased. You've got to have that in you. That value is in you, and he lived by that. He was a very well established person in the community, and he lived by those standards. People looked up to him, and it was important that we carried that through. So the business side of it was negotiation, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to treat customers. My dad used to walk around with a pocket knife all day long, cutting fruit and let people trying it. People would buy more when they tried what product was like. Can't do that these days because you can't carry a pocket knife. But they're things that you just don't forget. And it's important that you realize where those fundamentals came from, or in life, because you can learn them the hard way, or you can, take the lessons of others. And I'm grateful for the journey.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot. There's a lot that I learned from my father as well early on. And like I said, you don't realize it till later. But and I used to think, he's being a bit of an asshole to me, because he was like, do the job properly. Like, it's not been done well. If you're going to do something, do it right. And if your customer's going to get that, it should be perfect and done properly. And he used to really annoy me, because I was like, the job's done. He's like, well, it's not, and here's what's important. And that's really kind of stuck with me as it relates to quality and care factor of things. The little bit, they say, don't sweat the small stuff, but I'm like, no, sweat the small stuff, because it's actually the small stuff that's the difference. So you're working here on the weekends, and you're watching and observing Dad, and as you've kind of gone through, these characteristics have just become of who you are. But talk us through the next step. Did you take over the business? Did you go and start your own thing after that?
Yeah, no, I never took over the business. So that was the interesting part about my journey, is that I never took over a family business per se, but I went out and purchased a business that was a run down fruit market that needed some love. And I took that on with my two other brothers, and we built it into this, great, one of the largest stores in Sydney many, many years ago. And that just continued to evolve and grow. And we had a lot of people coming to us and wanting, our services. So it just continued to grow, and we moved into wholesale and providoring and food service. And it was just a multitude of things that came from that, that got us to, growing the business quite substantially over a number of years. And because I was doing so many things differently, and I was always ahead of the curve, I was always asked to speak at produce conferences around the world. So I'd been to quite a number of them and shared the experience of how we used to trade and what we did differently, and how we served the community and how we educated young kids at schools, on what they should be eating rather than the crap that they were eating. That started way back as well. So I was involved in a lot of different things that allowed the growth to come exponentially. Yeah.
And was that when you say, look, we did things differently, can you elaborate on that? Like, what type of things that you're doing that were kind of maybe cutting edge or the others weren't doing, and it was new and customers were loving it?
So I guess educating is the biggest thing in anything. The education of things is the most important. And most people, I'm going back quite a number of years now, but most people would go to restaurants and eat a product, whether it was an Asian restaurant where they'd eat, baby bok choy or gay lam or something that was Asian, the Asian vegetables, but they didn't know what it was like when they saw it in the fruit shop, So we would actually have full-time chefs working for us, cooking in the store all day long, and letting people try stuff, and then they go, "Oh wow, that's great. We now know what we're buying and how to cook it." So that was the starting point. It was basically getting chefs in the store working full-time for us, preparing and teaching and educating people on how to prepare a meal and use products like eggplant, for example. Like many, many years ago, it was only the Europeans that knew what eggplant was, not what it is today. So a lot of those sort of products that we brought the education out. And then to top that off, we also had within one of our facilities a barnyard, which we brought school kids into, for school excursions. And we taught them about produce, where it came from, what the optimum product was. We'd let them go home with a goodie bag of products, that were different. And it was all on our back. We never got subsidies for those things in those days. It was just basically all done on our own dime. But it was exciting because that got picked up in many different areas, and people are going, we want to talk to you. What are you doing that is different that we can learn from? And that's what sort of got me to a point, to traveling and sharing my experiences with a lot of people.
Yeah. Look, that's amazing. I think that now that you've spoken about it, that is the cutting edge stuff, right? Because it's actually and you see different forms of it now, but it's the try before you buy. It's have a taste of it, and if you like it, then we can give you more. And it's obviously worked well. How did that business evolve, and then you sold, exit? Talk us through that. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode. Just quickly, if you're ready to ditch that 9 to 5 or grow your sideline hustle, then click the link below to join our free Fired Up Facebook group. We're building a community of members where you can share ideas and support and talk to a group of like-minded people so we can actually go and build our things together. Would love you to click that and join on it. Back to the episode.
So we continued to grow, organically, but we had some people that were interested in what we were doing because we had pretty big exposure in those days, and we didn't have social media like we have now. So, you had the newspapers, which we used to get written up quite a bit, the news on TV, so little snippets of different things. And there was an IGA owner that came to me, and he used to him and his wife used to do their shopping in our store. And he said, my son is on the board of IGA and he owns a store at, a certain place. And he said, I want to get you in front of him and have a chat to him. And I ended up meeting him, and we started supplying him with fresh produce, and we literally doubled his sales in 4 weeks.
Wow.
Just by giving him good quality product and, teaching him how to present, how to merchandise properly.
Yeah.
And that sort of started a flow-on effect. And we sort of grew to supplying about 120 IGA stores all over New South Wales. And then a few years later, we had a company that came into Australia from South Africa called Pick n Pay. And they bought out some of the Franklin stores because Franklin's was, quite a big supermarket chain many years ago. And then they ended up going broke and they sold off all the stores. They had 200 odd stores and they bought quite a few. And then we picked up that business and started to grow with them as well. So before you knew it, we were turning over, 120, $130 million a year. And it was like, from this little fruit shop.
Yeah.
So we're one of the biggest players in the industry for a long, long time. It was probably one of the top 5 for many, many, many years. And it was exciting times. It was great times. Retailing, retail is detail, so if you merchandise correctly and when you walk into any supermarket, the first thing you walk through is produce. So, if that's appealing, it sets the standard for the rest of the store. And it's not done as well today as it used to be. And because they've taken a lot of the theatre out of it, but it's exciting and and anything to do with food is exciting. I've always loved food businesses. Because regardless of what happens in the economy, people got to eat. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess along that journey, particularly I guess as you get experience along the way, and we'll talk about that in later episodes of that part of your book. Real life experiences they're quite good. What was the big mistake throughout that period, or was there a significant hurdle that you came across? Can you talk us through it and then how that led to, a different direction or the recovery from that, or the big life lesson that you'll never make that mistake again?
Well, there's a couple actually. And
Yeah.
I guess the biggest one is trusting people, whether they're customers, whether they're suppliers, or whether they're staff or family even for that matter, is trusting people.
Yeah.
And sometimes the goodness in what we're created with, because we're all created equally, our goodness tends to give a little bit more trust, and sometimes that comes back and bites you. So I had a couple of times throughout the years extended credit to people that weren't what they said they were, didn't do the credit checks that I should have, and they went broke. And then basically it caused me some financial grief. Thankfully, I've never been bankrupt, but the pain is pretty severe because you've basically got to, scrape out of that hole and get back to the top. But the tenacity does that, and the drive and my will to never give up, which is something that I thrive on, got me through it. But I've had that experience 3 times over the years, and it's very painful. Very, very different today. I'm very, very clear on credit. I'm not a bank, so I'm very clear on terms.
Yeah.
Staff, can sometimes be another challenge where you trust people. And in one of my businesses, as the growth periods happen, because coming from a little fruit shop and growing, you're pretty hands-on. So as the business kept growing, I was hands-on. I was pulling orders out of the warehouse. I was driving trucks and delivering. Like, I was doing it all.
Yeah.
And I had a financial controller at the time who was a good friend, a good family friend. And he'd stolen $587,000 from us over a period. And I didn't pick it up because I trusted him until the bank came knocking on my door.
How did he do that?
Just siphoned it through and put it into different accounts and made
small amounts.
Yeah, he did it over a period of time. And
far out.
Yeah. And it wasn't until the bank came knocking on the door and said, you haven't made any payments for 6 months. We're going to close you down. And it's like, what? We were going really well. So, that sort of stuck. And I've had a little bit of that with other people throughout the years as well. And because you don't want to just not trust everybody, you've still got to trust.
Yeah.
But sometimes it does come back and bite you a little bit, And then also suppliers, I've had the experience where I've done great business with suppliers and I've taken a customer there to show them, the process from the ground up, and then you turn around and they're knocking on your customer's door and trying to bypass you, and it doesn't happen when there's that level of relationship that's built, because that's what I build everything on, is relationship. So you've got to be very, very careful, and all of those areas add up. And over the years, I've been burnt a number of times in all three areas quite significantly. If I had my time over again, we're talking millions of dollars, not hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. But the one thing I will say, Ben, is that the experience that I've learned through the journey, I would never have learnt it at any university in the world.
Yeah, which makes it painful but priceless.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Mate, last question just to wrap this one up. I'm just keen to get your overall thoughts on this. Is your strategy with business to either, buy, build, and exit? Is that how you approach businesses now or since back from the fruit days?
Not always. It depends on the circumstances. The business that I'm in today, I absolutely love, and I've got no drive or willingness to want to get out of. I've got my younger son who's nearly 23. He's coming to join the business, and I hope that one day he will take it on and take over. That will give me the greatest pleasure. I have a theory about starting businesses though, and it depends on what that business is. Because sometimes starting a business, the person that is the founder of the business is not always the one that makes money. That's usually where the pain is. So sometimes it's buying a business that you can see potential in. That it's like a house. You buy an old home that you can see that with your a little bit of expertise, you can make it a beautiful home, and you buy it, right? Same with the business. I would prefer to buy a business that I know I can value add to it and turn it into something great, rather than starting from scratch. And there's a number of reasons because of it, but more than anything else is that foundational starting point. Most people put a lot of money in and they get burnt out before they reap the rewards.
Right.
And it depends on where that J curve is.
Yeah.
That J curve is where most people opt out. And it could be anywhere between 1 and 3 years. But at 3 years, if you haven't started to hit that J curve, you're getting really tired and running out of funds, and most people opt out.
They give it up. All right, cool. Thanks, Ralph. Stick around on the next 2 episodes. Ralph's still going to be with us. We're going to get into the entrepreneurial mindset, and then we're going to start to talk about, in the last episode, some of those growth and development areas that Ralph has taken on that you will be able to take some ideas into your life as well. So stick around. We'll catch you later.